Here's what's coming up on the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan.
You don't worry about inflation. You're not worried about long-term care costs because you have the assets there to cover it, because you have a plan in place that lays out your next 30 years exactly what's going to happen. And if you have that, your life will change.
With their new shifted over plan, remodel plan, we're going to have $160,000 of income come to them each year off their assets, with $98,000, almost $100,000 of that being guaranteed for as long as they lived. It made them feel so comfortable, and we're only going to use about $1.4 million to guarantee that $98,000 a year forever.
In most cases, saying take it earlier, which is opposite of what Social Security is telling you. But each circumstance is different. We have to evaluate exactly what you're trying to achieve in retirement, but we're doing everything with math so that we make the right decision to turn on Social Security, defer it, or take it at a later date.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Welcome to this week's show.
We have 30 minutes of great information designed just for you.
Don't go anywhere. Make yourselves very comfortable because the show starts right now.
Hi, and welcome to this week's Author's Corner. As usual, I'm here with Jim and Dan. They are best-selling authors, TV talk show hosts, radio talk show hosts, and we have a tremendous topic to talk about today, and that's mistakes that could ruin your retirement. Dan, I'll begin with you. It's the classic, taking too much risk. Your broker saying, don't worry about it, stick it in a drawer, ride it out, all of those things. What kind of philosophy is that? And is that a big mistake?
Well, that's a philosophy that you can use when you're young, and it's not a mistake if you're trying to accumulate assets at the highest potential growth without worrying about risk of a big loss. Which you can do that if you're 20, 30, 40, maybe early 50. But once you get to retirement, close to retirement, 60, 65, 70, you can no longer have that attitude because everyone knows they want to try to avoid making big financial mistakes. Well, what's the biggest financial mistake you could make when you're 60? It's losing a big chunk of what you worked so hard to accumulate up to this point. What if you've accumulated $2 million of assets and now you're aggressive, just like what would have happened in 2008? Right? Market goes down by 53%, you lose half of your $2 million. How would you feel, and what would you do now if you only had $1 million left? So we're never going to, Jim and I will never say, hang in there, ride it out, stay the course. You're in it for the long run. You are in it for the long run, but we're never going to tell you to hang in there and ride it out.
So is it fair to say, Dan, that I think some people think I'm still going to chase the big gain, but what you should really be thinking about is not having the big loss. Fair statement?
Well, I think it's a fair statement, but I'm going to add on something to that. You no longer want to say, I'm going to chase the big gain. I think you want to say, I want to chase the big income. Because at retirement time, does the amount of your assets matter as much, or does the amount of income you're driving from the assets on a monthly basis that never will end? Will that matter? Well, at retirement, it's income, 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 because the more income you drive, the better lifestyle you have, and the more you don't worry about your money.
And if you have too much income, you can save it, right?
Yeah. So, did anyone ever complain to you about, no, this is too much income?
No.
So let's talk about this transition because it's really important, and I think a lot of people have to get it clear in their mind. The asset accumulation, I think everyone fairly well understands, hey, how can I put together this nest egg? But really it's about moving to that next one, which is asset protection and income, right?
Yeah, we call it asset preservation and income distribution because it's a different stage of retirement planning. It's a stage at which you're either going to retire or you're retired, and you got to make sure, as Dan just mentioned, you don't have a big loss in your portfolio, and you have to look at your assets differently. When you were accumulating your assets, you were there for growth. You were willing to take risk. But now all of a sudden you've accumulated your assets. Now it's about conservation, preservation of those assets, and income. So it's a different strategy. You use different products. You use different financial instruments. You have to create a plan now that's going to take you through retirement so you're not stressed out. You have the income you need. You have more income that you really need, so you can do those special things you've dreamed about.
Well, think about what you just said. People want to stop worrying as much about the money at retirement. And if they go for the big growth and they're taking risk, they worry about their money. If they create income and more income than they need, they don't worry about their income. They don't worry about their money. Think about it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And Dan, I'll wrap this up. I got about a minute and a half left here. It's all about having a plan, and you show people this is what your income is going to be this year, next year, all the way out for their natural lives. How important is that?
It's the single most important part of planning for retirement. It's having a written retirement plan. And we see so many people. We've probably seen thousands of people that have came into our offices in our careers, and very, very, very few of them ever have an actual plan. They have statements that'll show how much they have in their accounts, but not a plan. When you get a plan, a true written plan, you want to make sure it has a retirement income projection that shows for the next 30 years how much income you're going to get every year and where each year's source is going to come from. You want to take that income per year, drop it down to a monthly basis, show how much income you're going to get, how much tax you're going to have to pay, how much net income after taxes you're going to have, and then subtract out your budget and find out how much excess money you have. On top of that, you want to find out how much risk you have in writing. Not just, oh, you'll be okay, don't worry about it. In writing, you want to find out how many fees you're paying. Not just it's about 1%, but exactly how much fees you're paying. And you want to see how much money can potentially be left to the beneficiaries when you're gone after you've used your money for income and have lived a wonderful retirement, Jim.
And if you do all that stuff, you become comfortable now. You don't worry about inflation. You're not worried about long-term care costs because you have the assets there to cover it, because you have a plan in place that lays out your next 30 years exactly what's going to happen. And if you have that, your life will change.
Jim, Dan, thanks so much. Hey, if you want more information about anything we spoke about here today, give us a call in the office at 916-452-7325. We'd love to start a conversation with you. Or you can go to our website. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jim Files, CEO of Peak Financial, your local resource for retirement and investment planning, acting as fiduciaries for advisory clients. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap, including a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all free, no pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. There's no risk and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
On this week's segment of We Fix Your Money, you're going to meet Sam and Kate. They're both age 70. They have no pensions and they're scared about making financial mistakes like taking too much risk or running out of money in retirement. Now over to Dan and Jim to tell you how they helped Sam and Kate.
Thanks, Mark. We're very excited to be here for this week's hypothetical case study. And when we talk about Sam and Kate, you might see some of the things that are happening in your life or some of your worries in this case study. And when you look at this picture, you automatically know that Sam and Kate are worried. We don't have to say anything. You look at the picture, you look at the faces, and they're worried. And a lot of you might feel this exact same way. Well, they're retired, both age 70. They get $60,000 of Social Security, but no pensions. So that's what really freaks them out. They don't have income coming in on a steady basis like when they were working, so they want to create pension type of income. They have a lot of money. They saved $3.9 million of assets. They've done a fantabulous job of saving money. And you notice that word fantabulous. That means fantastic and fabulous at the same time. They have some needs. One of the things was to analyze their $200,000 home loan because their broker keeps telling them, don't worry, you don't owe that much. It's not that high of an interest rate. You don't need to pay it off, etc. And we had a different opinion for them. They've had a broker for 20 years and they've been very aggressive in accumulating assets and they've done well growing the assets, but they also have lost over 50% twice in that time period. They don't want to do it anymore. They think the fees are about 1% because that's what the broker says. The fees are about 1%. They want a written plan. They don't want as much risk and they want to help their daughter buy a new house and they want to give her $200,000 towards the down payment. They want to buy a $100,000 Tesla. They want to go electric. And they want to stop worrying about feeling poor. So imagine you save $3.9 million and these people actually say they feel poor because they're not using that 3.9 to create enough income. And they have a big budget they want to pay for. They don't want to worry about a risk of losing big losses, and they don't want to worry about their money ever running out. So this is a typical scenario when someone has been successful at saving assets. What in the heck do they do when they retire to create the income that'll make them stop worrying?
You know, Dan, like an architect with building a home, unless you have your client's objectives in front of you, how can you plan the home? Same thing with financial planning. Unless we know exactly what the clients want their money to do for them and what their worries and the concerns are, we can't build a plan. In this example, under the current plan, they had $100,000 in the bank. They had no money saved for the Tesla or the down payment for their daughter's home. They had $3.8 million at risk in the market. They had no money in their principal protection or lifetime income bucket. We increased our bank money significantly to $500,000. We set aside $200,000 for the daughter's down payment on the house. We put another $100,000 we set aside in cash because he wanted to buy the Tesla. We need to make sure that's available and liquid so they can buy it. We reduced the growth bucket to $1.7 million based on how we restructured the money. We increased the principal protection bucket to $1.4 million to accomplish their goals. Same $3.9 million. The key thing about the risk is that we were able to lower the risk substantially. They had a 42.8% risk factor, which means that the market goes down by 50%. They're going to lose 43% of their money projected. That means they would lose about $1.669 million of the $3.9 million. And this has happened in the past because we've had massive markdowns in the markets before. And they need a 75% rate of return to make up that 42.8% loss. That was totally unacceptable to the client. They were shocked when they saw these numbers. When we remodeled the portfolio, we got the risk factor down to 5.4%. They only needed $210,000. They would lose $210,000. It's still not risk-free. They're going to still have risk because they had a growth portfolio, but that's better than losing $1.669 million. And we only needed a 5.7% rate of return to make up that 5.4% loss, not a 75% rate of return to make up a 43% loss. Big difference, Dan.
Well, what this is showing is you have to allocate your assets to achieve the goals. What do you want your money to do for you? Not how do you want to invest it, but what do you want the money to do for you? That will tell us how to invest your money, which is what happened for this couple. And that allowed us then to create their income plan. They're driving right now $75,000 of income from their portfolio of $3.9 million with none of it guaranteed. With their new shifted over plan, remodel plan, we're going to have $160,000 of income come to them each year off their assets, with $98,000, almost $100,000 of that being guaranteed for as long as they lived. It made them feel so comfortable, and we're only going to use about $1.4 million to guarantee that $98,000 a year forever. It's a great way to do planning. You look at their original fee structure of 2.48%, we reduced that down to 1.44, so that was great because we saved them about 1%, which means over the next 20 years, they can plan to save over $800,000 of fees that they either get to keep in their own pocket as far as excess income, or they get to leave it to the beneficiary. So it was a great way to create income and then to make sure that their fees were managed.
You know, in retirement, it's about income, income, and income. So in this example, we were able to generate $19,000 of gross income per month. Estimated state and federal tax was going to be about $4,000 a month. We got them about $15,000 net after tax income. They had a budget of over $10,000 a month. That includes all of their spending. We were able to generate $4,752 of excess cash flow above their budget requirement, which was an extra $57,000 annually in excess cash flow for as long as they can live. And everybody out there is worried about inflation, Dan. They're worried about long-term costs in the future. And they're thinking, how do I solve that problem? You solve it by getting excess cash flow.
Yes, and you do it now. You don't try to catch up with inflation or plan for future expenses in the future. You take extra income now knowing that that will be available as well down the road, so it makes it a lot nicer. Well, once we planned for them and showed them they were fine, they wondered what could they potentially leave in a legacy to their beneficiaries, their kids and grandkids. Let's assume their portfolio only earns a conservative rate of return of 4%, the bank earns 1%, and their real estate appreciates at 1.5%, and they spend all the money they're getting in the plan. They don't save any of it ever throughout retirement. Well, by age 90, they would have taken out $3.16 million of income and spent it. They took that much out from their assets, and they've spent it. And if they just earn 4% on their portfolio, 1% in the bank, and 1.5% in real estate, they are projected to leave $6.4 million to the beneficiaries. So how would you like to spend $3 million of your assets by age 90 and still at very conservative rates be projected to leave $6.4 million to your kids and grandkids who you love?
Yeah. You know, Dan, you can't do this unless you put the full written plan together. You have to put all these details in writing before the client invests the money, the risk, the fees, the income, the taxes. All that information has to be delicately positioned in a plan so the client understands it and accomplishes their goal. And by doing so, these clients feel more secure and confident. They paid off their house, they increased their income, they have significant guaranteed lifetime income now. They have $57,000 of extra cash flow each year. They helped their daughter buy a house, which was very important for them. They reduced their risk, they reduced their fees. He got to buy a new Tesla, which he was dreaming of, and guess what? They both stopped worrying as much, Dan.
And this is what plans can do for you as long as we set the plan goals and then invest the money to give you the highest probability that your plan will work. That's what planning is all about, and it can help you do the same types of things. Mark, back to you.
Wow, guys, great results from a great plan. Your situation may not be exactly like Sam and Kate's. You may be single or still working, but you can see how planning can help you attain your goals and alleviate some of the worries about money. If this is something you'd like help with, give us a call right now in the office, 916-452-7325, or visit our website. Now stay tuned for a great complimentary offer.
Hi, I'm Dan Ahmed, President of Peak Financial, your local resource for retirement and investment planning, acting as fiduciaries for advisory clients. If you're a Northern California retiree or pre-retiree and worried about running out of money in retirement and how to create dependable income to replace your paychecks so they last for as long as you live, we have a great free offer for you. Our typical clients have $1 million to $5 million of retirement assets, but we can help you if you saved at least $500,000. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap that includes a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all for free. No pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. It's time to stop worrying about your money. Don't wait. Call the phone number on the screen or go to our website to claim your free offer. You have nothing to lose, there's no pressure, there's no risk, and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Welcome back to the program. Now let's listen in on the Peak Financial Freedom Hour with Jim and Dan.
Jim, great to be back for this week's radio show, Peak Financial Freedom Hour, and we're going to cover some questions we've been asked in the past because we think these types of questions really are pertinent to everyone listening right now because everyone's worrying about their money, worrying about income, worrying about losses, all those things. Well, hopefully we can answer some questions we've had in the past, and it really will help the people listening right now. So how about you take Charlotte? She's 62, retired, and she wants to make the best Social Security decisions, and it's so confusing. We talk about that on our shows a lot. She wants to claim her benefits now, but her advisor says to wait until age 70. And the federal government says to wait until 70 because you'll get more money. The Social Security website says if I defer, I'll get an 8% raise per year by deferring.
Daniel, most of that is right. But until you do a mathematical analysis to determine whether you should turn on Social Security now, should you turn it on at the full retirement age, or should you wait till 70, you don't know for sure. And that is why we have built our own proprietary software to be able to show clients mathematically this is when you should actually turn on Social Security. And it really, really makes it simple for the client to now understand that, hey, waiting and getting an 8% bump may not be the best choice for me.
Exactly. And there's different things you have to worry about because if she's 62 retired, if she goes and works part-time, if she makes less than $20,000, no problem. But if she makes more than that, she's going to get a penalty and lose some of her Social Security. So we have to look at that. We have to look at how many other assets she has. We have to look at, is it important to leave money to beneficiaries? And then we create those 3 tests using our software. First test is we do an annual income comparison of what you're going to get at 62 versus 67 versus 70. And of course, 70 is going to be more. But then we do cumulative income, which is going to show your break even. When do you break even? How long does it take to make up not taking your Social Security early by getting more Social Security later? Then we do a third calculation that shows what is the true value of taking Social Security in a lump sum now versus waiting to 67 or 70. And if someone has that data, they can definitely make the right Social Security decision.
Exactly right.
How about, let's look at Henry and Vicky. They have about $4 million saved. They're great savers, and they like to use the assets. Actually, it looks like Vicky would like to use the assets to create income so they can live the retirement they always planned on because they sacrificed before. But now, Henry, the husband, doesn't want to use much, if any, of the assets for income and wants to leave as much as possible to the kids. We see this a lot. I love our kids as much as my husband does, but I want to use our assets and then leave whatever's left to them. How can we get on the same page? And basically, what do we see as a reasonable amount to leave as a legacy? Well, I think the first page is you have to put down a plan in writing. We've got to find out what are the goals for the dollars. And they're not mutually exclusive. Doesn't mean you can't use your income and you have to leave all it to the beneficiaries or use all the income and nothing's being left. If you put the proper plan together and you do it in writing that shows how much income you're going to get each year for the rest of your life and where each income source comes from, and you reduce your risk in doing that, and if you can understand the fees you're paying and the taxes and generate enough net after-tax income, by putting a plan together like that, it sounds like you'll spend more money and leave less to the kids, but you actually have a higher probability of leaving more money to the kids because what happens as people, if they're 60 and 70, they spend money. What happens when they get into the 80s?
They start spending less money, right? And the key to this whole scenario is that they've identified they have opposite personalities when it comes to money, right? Which is typical. We see this every single day, and you can actually design a plan as you described to accomplish both of those goals by using different instruments, doing different strategies, and making sure that you have everything in writing so that they understand exactly how each one of their objectives are going to be satisfied in the planning process.
Well, right now, we know there's stress between them.
Yeah.
Their stress and their relationship is strained because of this, because we see it all the time. We also see once we create a plan that addresses both issues, that gives them enough income to spend now to live the wonderful retirement and shows them using ultra-conservative rates of return that they can leave a decent amount of money to the beneficiaries, they both are happy. And now they actually have a closer relationship. They love each other more, and it's just wonderful to see that you can actually put them both on the same page. So you're probably feeling this a lot, the people listening right now. If you have questions, just make sure, give us a call. We'll give you a free second opinion. We'll answer your questions. And also, there's a lot of great data, Jim, on our website. You can go there. You also can set up an appointment to meet with us. We'll be glad to help walk through these types of issues with you.
Thanks, guys. That was some great information. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jim Files, CEO Peak Financial, your local resource for retirement and investment planning, acting as fiduciaries for advisory claims. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap, including a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all free, no pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. There's no risk and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
As if finances weren't complicated and confusing enough, when we retire, they force us to make decisions about Social Security. There's so much conflicting advice out there as to when and how to claim Social Security benefits. It makes it tough to be confident in your decision. Today on Peak University, Dan and Jim are going to be giving you their advice on Social Security.
Thanks, Mark, and you're exactly right. Social Security is so complicated. So many retirees and pre-retirees are out there trying to get information, and there's not a lot of really good, credible information. In fact, most of the things you hear are things we're going to recommend the opposite of, which is pretty amazing. But we make recommendations on specifics. We do calculations. We do analysis. We're not just going to throw something out there. We're going to give you the actual data. So when you look about Social Security, Jim, we know as advisors for consumers, claiming Social Security literally equals mass confusion. And all of you listening right now are probably saying, it does. It really does. It equals mass confusion.
That's exactly right, Dan. And people don't know the right answer because they get such conflicting information on the internet, through advisors, etc.
So Jim, I think there's first some things to consider before we get into the calculations of how you should determine when to claim your Social Security. And there's a few things. One is, what is your benefit amount going to be based on the age you are when you retire? And a lot of times you'll hear the story, well, if you're 62, wait till you're 70 because you'll get so much more money from your Social Security. And you will get so much more money, but you would have gone without that income from 62 all the way to 70, so you would have given up something to be able to get something. How about if you continue to work past 62 and under your normal retirement age? So let's say for a lot of people right now, normal retirement age is going to be 67. If you continue to work, there's an earnings limitation before you start to get a penalty on some of your Social Security. How about making the government your beneficiary? By deferring your Social Security benefits, you could be making the government your beneficiary. How? Well, if you don't take income off of Social Security and you draw income off your assets and you die, you have less assets to leave to your beneficiary and your Social Security money stops, which means you now have literally made the government your beneficiary. And when it's put that way, I don't think very many people like that idea. How about future Social Security changes? We know Social Security is going to change. It's just in what manner. It's not going to get better. There's no way possible it's going to get better. It's going to get worse. They might cut benefits, and you have to factor that into your plan. And how about longevity? How long do you plan to live? Your spouse? Because all those things had to be taken into consideration so that we can make really, really good decisions for every single individual client.
You know, the key here, Dan, is that, as you mentioned earlier, everybody's concerned about Social Security. When should I take it? Should I defer it? Should my wife take it before I should? Should I take it and continue to work? All those things are important questions that you have to have answers. So what we've done is we've actually built our own Social Security software. It's proprietary, so we can explain this very easily for you so you'll understand it. I'll give you an example here.
Well, and there's 3 tests we run that Jim's talking about there. We're going to run 3 separate tests to be able to show you what's best for you. The first is what's called our annual income test, and this is what you're going to hear. It's going to show how much income you're getting if you take it at 62, how much income you get if you take it at 67, how much income it increases to if you wait till 70. So it gives you that first one-dimensional view of your Social Security. Then we're going to show you the cumulative income, which is when is your break-even point. Everyone wants to know, if I take my money now versus deferring it, when is my break-even? When do I finally get all my money back so it makes it an equal proposition? And I think one of the most important ones is to do what's called a future value analysis. It'll show what's the true value of taking your income earlier versus midway versus waiting till the end and taking it at age 70. And if you have all these tests, you'll be able to make the proper decision for yourself and your family for Social Security.
Yeah, if you go on the Social Security website, they're going to tell you to defer, defer, defer. Now, why are they telling you that? Because they know the same information we're going to display to you right here. The government is not telling you to defer because they are looking after your best interest. So we're going to give you the data here. We're just going to do the math for you. So in these first columns over here, as you all know, the longer you defer between 62 and 70, you get a bump every year of approximately 8% more income. So you automatically think I should defer. But as you mentioned, Dan, there is a break-even point. So for example, if you look here, if you took it at 62, you would get $23,000 approximately in Social Security income. If you waited until 67, you get $33,660. And if you waited until 70, yeah, there's a big bump. You're at over $41,000 a year. But this is the key component, Dan. Show them now the break-even analysis.
Sure. So, Jim, you're exactly right. We have to study the cumulative, meaning the total benefits you receive. So if you started taking Social Security at 62, you add up all the income you're receiving, and it shows the cumulative amount, meaning the total payments you've received over time, and that means you will win through age 80. If you start taking Social Security at 62, you don't break even until age 81 if you would have waited and taken it at 67. So that's a long time period. That's 18 years. Then it takes until 84 until finally at age 70 you would have broken even. So you have to live a long time on a guaranteed basis for that to happen. And we don't know for sure that you're going to live that long. So in this case, we'd say, well, probably test number 2, age 62 is better. Then if you go and take it one step further and say, okay, what if now we use test number 3, and it shows you taking this income, and instead of spending it, you invest it, and you earn 5% as a future value number. You can see that test number 1, taking your income at age 62 from Social Security, does not ever lose to the other deferrals from 67 and 70, Jim. So what's that saying?
Well, it was saying in this chart, in most cases, saying take it earlier, which is opposite of what Social Security is telling you. But each circumstance is different. We have to evaluate exactly what you're trying to achieve in retirement, but we're doing everything with math so that we make the right decision to turn on Social Security, defer it, or take it at a later date.
Yeah, so don't make your decisions off this couple's chart. Make it off of this type of analysis that we can do for you, and it'll show you what the best time to claim Social Security is. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks, guys. I love the 3-step process you go through to help people actually see the outcomes of their Social Security options. This makes a whole lot of sense and makes it a lot easier. If this is something you'd like to learn more about, hey, give us a call right now at the office at 916-452-7325 or go to the website.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Thank you for watching this week's show.
And if you want more information about anything we talked about here today, give us a call in the office or go to our website.
And remember, at Peak Financial Freedom Group, we fix your money.
The preceding program is sponsored by Peak Financial Freedom Group.